You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. By going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com, you can make this possible.
All right, folks, let's talk about what's happening in Cook County. According to the U.S. Census, they're continuing to lose black people and white folks. The Hispanic and the Asian population continues to grow. At 1.2 million, African Americans still make up. Cook County is still the largest county of African Americans in the country, but they lost 75,000 African Americans in the last year. So what's going on there? I want to talk about this with our panel. Eric, I want to start with you first. The reason that this is important because now what you're talking about a shift in terms of control of cities and counties. You look at Washington, D.C., of course, used to be known as Chocolate City. It's barely Mocha City right now. And so even though you have a black mayor, the reality is this city is changing. Right. Now, the benefits of that, you're seeing African Americans who are moving into Prince George's County and Montgomery County, but population shifts where you've had significant black population also is going to lead to changes in those places. And so Chicago has to figure out what do they do about this. Clearly, a lot of people I know personally people who are leaving because of the violence in that city. Also, for some folks, it's the cold. But we're also finding, Erica, are a lot of black people who are leaving northern and Midwest cities, returning home to their southern roots.
Absolutely, Roland. And you know why? Because it's more economically advantaged for those families to do that. So listen, you mentioned Chicago and D.C. D.C. is one of the number one, it's leading in gentrification, and it's on steroids, particularly when you start thinking and talking about opportunity zones, which the mayors across the 50 states had to assign 25% of land for those, for people to come in for those opportunities to really gentrify neighborhoods. So going back to what we're seeing happen in Chicago, you've got 4 neighborhoods. I was reading a report today. You have 4 neighborhoods that were historically black and brown neighborhoods in Chicago that are now unrecognizable. That definitely has an impact as well. So as people begin to see their neighborhoods changing the landscape, that the property taxes are going up, as you mentioned, people are returning not only to their roots, but to a place where they could grow their families and it won't hit them as hard in the pocket.
Eugene, the point that she makes about economics is really critical because the reality is when you talk about living in the Northeast, living in the Midwest, a lot more expensive than it is living in the South. When you look at the price of homes, things along those lines, let's also be honest, when you look at some of these states like Texas, where you have no state income tax, black folks are saying, you know what? Yeah, those states might be different. They might be deemed red states, but for many of us, that's home.
Yeah, and the other part of it is that a lot of these states have growing economies in comparison to a lot of the states that they're leaving. Illinois is from a broader standpoint, is in a fiscal crisis year in, year out. In particular, Cook County, with a lot of the redevelopment, the home prices are rising, but the economic opportunities aren't rising. And so what you're seeing is that you're seeing, Atlanta become what, Detroit was. You're seeing what a lot of cities in Texas become what the North was, 50, 60 years ago for black people. And so it's a lot of it, a big part of it is economic. A big part of it is the accessibility of economic opportunities and cost of living.
CJ, this also has an impact on politics. One of the reasons that you're seeing Reverend William Barber and others push so hard in these southern states because they want to ensure that black populations are being able to benefit from these population shifts. And we better understand that moving for economics is one thing, but we want to ensure that our power is also not diluted while that happens.
Well, the one thing that data also showed was the increase of Hispanic growth also in southern states and in southern cities like Atlanta, like in North Carolina. And so, the African American community, we really need to have a discussion amongst ourselves of what does this browning of America mean for us when we have been the majority minority. because we're going to be not the majority minority anymore. And how do we continue to progress and get our community move ahead?
First of all, we're not the majority. First of all, we're not the majority minority right now. I mean, for actually, the Latino population is larger than that of the African American population. So that's the way it is right now, anyway.
Well, but again, what I was saying is, how do we come together to really deal with the transformation of this population shift? Because we have been the majority minority for a long time, and so now
we have not. We lost that a while ago.
Again, I was saying, Roland, for a long time we were, but that population shift is happening, and so how do we, as the Black community, really become accustomed to what this new meaning means? Because there are still some cities where we are still the majority minority, but that is rapidly changing. And how do we, when we start looking at losing our electoral clout, the shifting of more Black Hispanics running that might not identify with the Black American experience? So we must have a true conversation as the population shift begins to happen.
CJ, I'm sorry. What are you talking about?
What am I talking about was the data that you just talked about.
Hold up. One second. There are more Black members of the Congressional Black Caucus today than there have ever been in history, Eugene.
Roland, the thing with CJ's getting at is the old conservative, fallacy and trope that, hey, it has to either be Black or Hispanic, one or the other, that, both groups can't rise together. As if, the plight that we all are dealing with is not similar or one and the same. Increasing Hispanic numbers does not mean that, Black voters are now, their vote mean less, or that there can be less opportunities for Black voters. That's a conservative fallacy that conservatives like to use, in regards to the Hispanic community and particularly immigration. That's where CJ's getting at.
No, that's not where I'm getting at. I'm looking at the data, and it goes back to when Ross.
You literally just said
this is not a. I did not get this from a conservative talking point, Eugene.
Hold up. I can't hear either one of you. Eugene, finish your point, then CJ.
I said, CJ literally just sat here and said, hey, we need to figure out what Black America's face is going to be in the browning of America, as if the increasing Hispanic populations are going to displace Black America's either political power or economic power. That was literally her argument.
And that is absolutely
now,
correct.
CJ.
Because, and again, when you look at the Congressional Black Caucus, yes, we do have the most number of members in the CBC. But it also was a spat that took place when Charlie Rangel lost his seat to a Black Hispanic. And that played out in public of where his allegiance was going to be, whether it was going to be to the Hispanic Congressional Caucus or to the CBC. And so we must have this conversation.
First of all, the guy who he lost to is the first Dominican in the United States Congress. That's
not what I'm arguing about.
Hold up. But my point is that congressional district also changed. Look.
And that's
the
about, again, goes to the shifting of demographic population shift.
Wait a minute. You got Sanford Bishop is the mayor of Congress from Georgia with a significant white population in his district. So the bottom line is this here. What's going to happen is when we talk about population shifts, what it also boils down to are African Americans voting our numbers to ensure that we're maximizing our power. That, to me, I think what has to happen.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Mark Unfiltered video in just one moment. All right, folks, they're back. MarijuanaStock.org is another great investment opportunity. If you were lucky enough to invest in their last crowdfunding campaign, you know they raised a ton of money in just a few months investing in legal marijuana farms. Those initial investors now own shares of a publicly traded company, and they are on fire. Now they have a new investment opportunity that is as good, if not even better, than the last one. I'm talking about industrial hemp CBD. For those who don't know, the hemp plant is the cousin to marijuana with a much higher concentration of CBD, which means hemp CBD gives you all the medical benefits of marijuana without getting you high. Until recently, hemp farming was practically illegal in the U.S. and heavily regulated by the DEA. However, the 2018 Farm Bill changed all of that, making it legal to grow hemp CBD in the U.S. and creating one of the largest commodities worldwide. They need land to grow. all the plants. Now, this makes for an incredible investment opportunity, and that's where our good friends at 420 Real Estate come in. Their business model is simple. They buy land that supports hemp CBD grow operations and lease it to licensed, high-paying tenants. That's right, they are hemp CBD landlords, and you can get in on the action. You can invest in the crowdfunding campaign for as little as $200 up to $10,000. Like I said, you don't want to miss out on this. To invest, go to marijuanastock.org. That's marijuanastock.org. And yes, this is a black-owned company, so you want to try it and get in the game. Now back to your Roland Martin Unfiltered video.